Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Get away from her, you...
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's week 2 on the power loader build. I don't think this will take all week. You can hold me to that, but we've only got a little bit left to do. Of course, we've got to paint up Ripley, but the big deal is going to be the hoses. And the hoses that come with the kit, it's one long string of hose, and you're required to cut it to various lengths. And I did that over the weekend. I went ahead and taped down a ruler. See, I've got the ruler taped down with my little metrics on the side here. And I just lined everything up and sliced them with an X-Acto. And I run into the first problem, which, is to be expected and more than anybody already knows, is that trying to fit these small hoses onto the nipple things that are provided in the kit is difficult. It is probably the toughest thing about this whole build, because the hoses are way too skinny, and what you have to put them on are big. So you got to stretch that out somehow. And I went through the normal things of, okay, well, we'll try boiling water, not boiling water, but very hot water, warm it up. And that works, but it's messy, and you've got a boil of water there that you got to get, dried off and everything. So it comes with its own challenges. And I finally came down to this. I've got a nice pair of tweezers here that have a pointy end on them, just like that, just a nice pointy tweezer. And you start by, you can ram the hose down over the pointy end of the tweezer as far as you can get and kind of work it back and forth, and then quickly pulling out, and to the point where you can put both of the ends of the tweezer in there and let it go and push it down over top of it. Now, if you let that sit for a while, you can get to a point where it will stretch it out, and then quickly rush it over to the part on the kit and stick it down on it. Now, the other problem with these hoses is that they have a memory. They have a mind of their own, and they really want to have this really huge arc on them. I mean, yes, you're going to pull it into shape where it goes to the final location, but you really want to put some oomph in it and be able to bend it. So I had thought of this all along because I watched my friend Wayne on World of Wayne, and whenever he is dealing with cylinder spark plug wiring in his cars, he will put a thin wire in the center of it, which gives it the posability. He gives it the chance that you can shape it to the way you want it to go. And I figured, okay, that's a no-brainer. We can go ahead and put some thin wire into all of these, and also use that to shape the wire and make it have like gravity is affecting it, because something like this wouldn't necessarily lay. It would do this. It would, the weight of it would push it down. So there's that to think about. And then the third thing is the length of these, because I think they're way overdone. This is an example. This is Ripley's left hand on the this piston, and this is where it starts and this is where it ends, and in between you have a whole lot of this. Now, this is the closest they will ever be, is that position. This is the furthest away they will ever be. Well, all of this is just something that's going to get caught on something, or is something that the alien queen could grab and make use of. So I'm going to cut the length of these. I'm going to trim them down to something a little bit more feasible, a little bit more logical, something a little neater. Now, you can do a nice little coil like that if you've got a wire inside of there to shape it. Again, this is something like that, but there's really no cause for it to be that long. In reality, it probably would be a very short hose. So those are the types of adjustments we're going to make. Now, I do have this is all plan A. I do have a plan B in the back of my head, and that's the good thing about thinking about this over the weekend, is it gave me time to come up with a plan B. And that's not going. It's going to involve not using any of these hoses at all, because I'm going to use something else that I can slip a wire in. That I can also. It doesn't have this preformed arc in it. It's something that's going to be allowed to be bent a lot easier, and that is this. It is the shrink tubing that I get from Evans. I get this very narrow shrink tubing wire, or wire covering from Evans Designs, and with this I can slip a wire inside. I could slip this because it's a larger diameter than the hoses that come with the kit. I can slip any of those over any of the nipples on the pistons and whatnot, and then simply warm it up, hit it with a hot air gun, and it will shrink down and fit over top of that. Now, if I wanted to add some glue to that and then fit this over and then shrink it, it's definitely going to go. But the nice thing is it'll take a tighter bend. Once I put a wire in it, now see, it's going to kink when you do that. But if you put a wire in it, it'll take a bend, and it'll, I think, give me a nicer, neater result than this hose, which doesn't. This hose is like work. It's in an odd way. It's like working with fiber optics. Fiber optics, you don't. They don't want to bend very tightly. So see, I can do all of that before it'll kink, but it fights me. It wants to spring back into shape like a fiber optic does. So that's, of course, that's plan B, but that also means I'm waiting for those to show up in the mail, and they haven't yet. So I'm going to proceed with plan A until such time that those do arrive in the mail. Now, for some reason, it put a split on here, which is another reason why I'm kind of glad I'm not using these full length, because I could trim them down a little bit. But I tried using the hot water, and the thing was, it worked, but it was just so cumbersome, because now you have a bowl of hot water that you have to keep reheating. You have a wet part of your model that you're putting on here, and then all of a sudden you got to worry about, is it going to mess up the paint that you've already got down? So finding a dry solution was definitely a better one. Now, something else I did just this morning is I went ahead and put the welding, the acetylene lines in for the torch. And this is where we had a little bit of an issue with this screen graded part, because on the actual prop, this is an open mesh screen, and they used zip ties every so often here to hold that down. Well, zip ties at real life scale, imagine how small they would be at 1/6 scale. They'd be 1/6 the size of a zip tie. So, I'm sorry, 1/12 scale. What was I thinking? 1/12 size. So I just used the finest wire I could find to twist it in the two spots where I could get around the bar here of the cage, and then one way at the back here. I couldn't do any of this area because I can't, unless I drill down through there to make a hole, which is not impossible to do. It's just cumbersome. But this area needs to be able to take the stress of moving up and down. So it's CA'd in here, and I might even want to tack something or wrap something around this post here to take some stress off. But it's going well. Like I said, it's not going to take the whole week, I don't think. Here's a good example of things that are too long. Now, using the chart that came with the instructions, it tells me that E and J are these two lines here that are supposed to be 150 millimeters long. E and J are supposed to be 150. These bottom four are all supposed to be 150 millimeters long. They go right here, and I think the other one, where is it? It's yeah, this one goes here, and this one goes here. Well, that looks like I could shave off easily that much from the length. I could shave off easily that much. What I would do is I would take the leg into the most forward position. I'd stretch it out as far as it ever would have gone, and then use that as my maximum. You know, if you pull it tight, the leg, you know, when it's back here, it's going to have more slack. When it's up front, that's as long as that tube ever needs to be. So that's when I would cut it like that, and that gives me my my slack when it's pulled back. So that's the kind of work I'm going to be doing this morning. Okay, here's the first replacement of the hoses with the right length, or a better length. This is the new one. See, it still has a bit of a slack to it, but this is the one I took off, which is way too much longer. And really, where I got this piece from was from cutting the slack off, or the excess off of this one. And I found a tool in my dental tools that seemed to work as far as expanding the hose out, just giving it a little twist in here. It's one of those things you have to act quickly about, but yeah, that worked just fine. And that's the shorter one going from there to there. So I need E, which is this one, goes to the bottom part of that piston, and I think I can cut at least that much of it off. So let's get that marked with a finger here. The wire cutter's out. And if I pull these tight, I don't need to put any sort of wire shaping on the inside of it. At least that's what I'm finding. So I'm going to be reserving the wire shaping for the really long ones, like the ones that go out to the claws. The legs they all use much shorter lengths, so I think I can get away without it. Yeah, see, that's pulling back. It's fighting me a little bit. You gotta stretch it out and then quick move it over and push it on the piston before its memory returns. So those are the two. And if this leg were to be kicked forward, see, that's the back, so we have plenty of slack there, but that's the full range of motion there. Okay, I think I've come up with a hybrid solution, and that is I'm still using the shrink wrap to go over the nipples themselves, but I'm putting just a little bit of it on the end, and then using the shrink wrap to fit it over the end, but then use the regular hose that came with the kit to do the rest of it. Now, so far so good, but we'll see how it goes for the rest of them. I had given myself a false length on the arm because I was putting it way up over the head, and then I forgot to put this piston in, and the piston will limit how much this arm can go up and down, so it can only go that high given the limitation of this. So some of this length is longer than it needs to be because I was allowing enough for it to raise up higher than that. But that's that arm with the elbow in. Now I still need to do these guys and the grippers, and those are the really obscenely long lengths. And we're also going to run into the thing where once you put these guys on, you're not going to be able to spin this all the way around. It's going to go like this far and then maybe to that far, but you're not going to be able to do the corkscrew maneuver because the pipes would end up getting wrapped around here. So you're going to start locking your mobility down to where the hoses will let you move. And arranging all of this in the back is kind of its own neat trick. This needs to get pushed back on here. I find it's easier to start on this back manifold and push all of those ones on, and then take them out and trail them to wherever they need to go, rather than putting it on the extremity first and then bringing it back to the middle. See, I just need to stretch this out. Now, I've been hesitant to glue any of these down, just because I don't want to limit myself, but I may have to start hitting them with the CA. The ones on the back here on this manifold, sorry, in camera, the ones on the manifold, the tubing seems to like those a little bit better. I don't think they are quite as big as some of these ones out in the rest of the figure. It might not be canon. It might not even be good practice, but my it mattered to me to make it a little bit neater. As I just took some stranded wire here and twisted a little tie down for this really awkward hose that has to, basically do a 360-degree turn here. In the real world, I'm pretty sure that there is such a thing as a right angle hydraulic connection, and we're just not given that here. So all of these straight connections have to make these big lazy turns of hosage, and it's just cumbersome. So a little tie down there just to keep it a little bit neater, but we still have our full range of arm motion, at least full range as this piston will allow. Okay, so I'm continuing work on the right arm, and I decided, yeah, I maybe just need to finish up one arm at a time rather than working from both sides, because getting this arm on, it is easier. Well, it's easier to work without this second arm in place, so I can just finish this up and then I can put the second arm on. And I'm down to the last two, which are the big ones, the big troublesome ones, and those are the ones that go out to here and whip around. And I want to do something to kind of weigh those down, so those ones might actually get the wiring in them. So far I haven't needed it, but those might get the wire. And I think I'm going to do some more of the bungeeing, for lack of a better term, where I'm taking some thin wire and just grouping it and twisting them together. May not be safe, may not be canon, but it's a heck of a lot neater. Just about to finish up the right arm on the power loader, and I came up with a couple more little cleaty type things, little channels to run the tubing in that will neaten up the appearance and the look of things. Again, I don't know how canon it is, but it certainly does make things look a lot nicer, and it also gets me away from having to try to train the shape of these a lot, because if they're going into little rings like that, then that helps train them in shape. This is still, to me, an ungodly amount of slack, and an opportunity for someone to just go nuts and clip the, take one slice through there and basically knock out all your hydraulics. But that's the way it's designed. Okay, while I was finishing up this hand, I came up with another idea, or I saw something that sparked an idea. And I'm certainly not going to go back and do it on everything, but on these most visible of joints, see these little rings there I cut out of this piece of aluminum tube? I just cut tiny fraction pieces and slid them back down over, and then when I joined the tube to the nipple there, I can slide that piece over top of it, and it has just enough clearance on it that it makes a really tight joint, and fits them in there quite nicely. I don't think those guys are going to come loose anytime soon. Like I said, I'm not going to go back. I would be a madman if I were to go back and try to do it on all of those. But on the very visible joints, like at the front claw here, I'm going to do that. For the other claw, and let's see, if there are any other, I might do it on those two, since those are very visible. But I don't think I'll do it on the rest. Well, I might do it on that side. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. It depends on what kind of patience I have for doing this. All right, it looks like the flying spaghetti monster, but it is done. I tell you, I've got all the hoses in, and there isn't a single one that I didn't cut at least an inch off the length. I thought they were just way too long, and given the amount of range of movement that the pistons would allow, there's no sense making the hoses any longer than that. But that's them. That's the spaghetti. They're all in. The suit, for all intents and purposes, is done. All I have left to do now is finish Ripley and get her in there. That's pretty much it. Push this down so you can see the nice light there. There's the light. Working a little bit later than I normally would tonight, but I wanted to get that much of it done. I'm debating whether or not to just cake the back, the big manifold, whether I should just put a bunch of CA over all of those connections. I don't know how long they'll last. We'll leave them overnight and see if they kind of stay or if they're going to work their way out. If they don't like sticking where they are and they jump out, well then that's going to seal their fate. I'm going to do a little cleanup here and call it a day on the power loader. Everything is still in. I like these little barrels that I chase them through, and I really like these connections. That was an inspired bit of nonsense there. I did them on the noticeable ones here. I also did them on the claw and underneath the arm there. About the only place I didn't do them was, of course, on the manifold end of any of it, but on the ones that went straight into pistons. Those I did not do, or the ones that went back and forth on the same pistons. There are two sets of those there. That is this piston here and this one on the back. So those are the only ones that didn't get those little ferrules. But yep, pick it up tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. I have finished with the power loader. This morning I went through and did a quick chrome pass and then a rust pass, and I've got some the highlights where the paint had been scraped off supposedly, and then some rusting down around the feet and in the deepest joints where the rust I think would gather. And I'm ready to put this aside, other than the fact that it's got the hands attached. So I need to obviously touch up the paint on those hands and paint Ripley, and we'll be done with this kit hopefully today, and I can get on to the next project. Righty, I think we're ready. Spent the last couple of hours painting on this Ripley. Now the secret here is next to no makeup, because let's face it, she wasn't trying to make herself pretty. I mean, she's a gorgeous woman and a fine actress, and you want to have a certain level of pretty for the screen, but she wasn't like she was dolling herself up to appeal to the other grunts. So minimal makeup, just a little bit of lip blush, a little bit on the cheeks. I think I got it. I think I did. I'm to that point. You know that point. You can sing it along with me. That if I had done any more, I was afraid I was going to screw it up. So that's something. Now that's a point that changes every time. So I do experience some growth. I do get further down the line before I realize I might screw something up. But it's still an ever-present fear, particularly when I am painting faces. So I've learned to take well enough and leave it alone. I'm just putting a little bit of gloss on the lips and a little bit of gloss on the eyes. I may have overdone the highlight, but because she's going to be inside that cage, I wanted to make sure that the eyes did stand out a little bit more. Oh, that clear is actually bringing out the color some. But yeah, I'll live with it. It's like I say, it's not the most glamorous makeup I've ever done, and it's in that weird This 1/12 is a weird scale because it's just big enough that you can see all the details in the eyes, but not so big that it's easy to paint. So here we are. We flip up the top of the cage. We pull the harness out. And I will be getting ready to glue that harness in. So we will put her feet. I need to repose the legs from how I had them originally. Need to make sure that the feet go in the way I had originally planned it. Yeah, there she is. And the peg in her back. I need to, I think I need to lean the whole, this might be embarrassing to do on screen, so I am going to turn off the camera. I think, hold on. No, I've got it. So yes, I want to document this wonderful success. Look at that. She is in. Now, the only thing I need to do, yeah, I knew that was going to happen because that piece wants to come off and I'm going to just glue it in place. This pad. I'm afraid of pulling away any wiring that I did yesterday, any of the tubing. So what I need to do is make the hands meet the wrists. And then I will, I'm debating whether, no I can't because there are so many different positions that those hands can be in, or the arms can be in, that I don't want to glue the, either the shoulder or the elbow in place for fear that I would inadvertently lock the arms. Okay, that's what I need to do. I need to turn it like that. There we go. Pop that wrist in. There, that, perfect. Now let's do the same on this arm. Pull the hand forward. Now see, this one can come out. Let's go ahead and put that in all of the way. There we go. Now we can reattach it to the loader. There. Okay, now push your shoulders in. There we go. We've got our Ripley in position. The hands are on the controls. Next thing to do is to put on the harness. Harness in. Other harness in. Let's do the bottom of the harness. Boy, so far I'm lucky that none of those tubes have wanted to pull loose. Okay, bottom harness in on that side. Get this on camera. Bottom harness in on this side. Yes. Okay, harness is in. She's in harness. It's a little loose on her. I would have liked to have had that pulled back a little tighter. Cage is ready to go down. Oh, I got one last detail. I need to paint the ring on the bottom of that beacon light. Yes, and there is the locked cage. Okay, put this to the back side. I need to paint that bottom ring there. Don't know whether that should be black or silver. What do you think? I think it probably should be some big contrasty color. Let me do a black, and then I can do a little bit of silver where the black got chipped off. So, small brush. Not that small. Not that small. Sorry, let's do this in camera. And we're down to the tiny, tiny details. I'm wondering if there's some sort of base that I need to make for this, or whether I can live with it happily just the way it is. I have, as of late, been running out of shelf space, and I think that I just popped it on the top there, and I think that the bigger I make my bases, the more trouble I make for myself in the ability to find a place to store them. So I think we're going to leave you without a base for the time being, but I think we're ready to call that finished. I'm going to let everything dry. It's about lunchtime. I could come back after lunch and call it a day. Well, surprise, surprise, it's Tuesday and I'm making a video. Yeah, it's only good. I knew it would only take me a day or two to finish this off, but here is the final Ripley in Power Suit. I had a ton of fun with this. This is probably the most fun I've had with a Bandai type of kit. That method of production is just perfect for this subject. But I really like that process and that high level of model making engineering when it's applied to something like this. It's great. And the fact that this company is going to be making a Kane from RoboCop kit, and that should be out shortly, is all kinds of thrilling here. I'm trying to close up the cover here so that I can turn the light on. Put the cage, there we go, with the little spinny light. But yeah, most fun I had with a kit in a while. And that's going to bring an end to this now. I'm starting another kit tomorrow. I've already started it. I was printing it all last weekend, and tomorrow we will do a meet the parts, but that's another video for another day. So until tomorrow, be good, be smart, be kind. Be back here tomorrow.